Hello there, folks. We're back. We're back after a little break. I have been away with work, with the kids' summer holidays, so I've had a little bit of a more restricted sim racing period, and that'll probably continue for the next 6 weeks or so. But we're back. We're back around the Hungaroring. Given it's the F1 race this weekend, I thought I'd do some ACC and find out if the track is any good. So I hopped in, I tried to find an online race and I couldn't find one. So I thought what I'd do is I'd do a fastish kind of lap just to show the track off at a more sort of qualifying pace, and then I'd do a race against the AI, maybe a last to first, something like that, just to give a little bit of context of what it's like racing on it. So, it is the F1 race this weekend. Historically, this track has never been a favourite of mine. In the F1, I think the first 4 or 5 corners are good, and then the back half of the track really just becomes a go-kart track. And it's in the modern F1, with the size of those cars, it really isn't much fun. That's in my opinion anyway. I know that some of the drivers like it. I know Lewis Hamilton's it's very popular with him, but yeah, once you get past this corner we're on just now, I don't have a huge amount of enthusiasm for it. So as a result, I've never really driven it on ACC. In fact, I think total, looking at my screen, I think it's 16 laps on the track in total, and in the last year, 18 months I've had ACC. I think I've had 16 laps. I think this and Paul Ricard are the 2 tracks I just barely drive because I really just have no sort of care for them at all. So I've really got no experience going around it. I don't know if this time's any good. I don't know what sort of benchmark times. I can't even remember watching too much esports stuff around here. So, but by comparison, I used to drive this track on the F1 games back in the day, and it just wasn't much fun. But actually, on ACC in a GT car, it is a bit more fun. It's not a total sort of tragedy. So there you go. That was a lap. I don't know if you've been paying attention in the background. That's a sort of full pace lap, 1:45.4. So I don't know if that's any good. It felt pretty good. It's probably my usual sort of 3-second gap to the esports guys. And here we are. So we're starting at the back of the grid here for a rolling race. And it's against the AI. I think in this one the AI was set to 95% because I think I'd had them on 95% for the Nordschleife. Usually round tracks I go with 100% AI and just turn the aggression down a little bit, because I think sometimes if you turn the aggression up you do incur quite a few safety rating penalties because you end up in a crash because the AI do stupid things. So I usually turn the aggression down to like 70% for the aggression and 100% AI, but I think in this race it was still on 95 because that's what it was on with the Nordschleife, which was the last AI race that I'd done. But given we were doing a last to first and we were on this track, which one I hadn't really raced round and 2 is quite narrow, I thought, well, you know what, I'll just leave it on 95 and that'll probably be fine. So we got off to a good start, sort of dive bomb through the inside, because you can do that with the AI, and you just sort of make up as many places. Then I just sort of settled in for a lap here and just, sort of thought, well, you know what, I'll just follow some cars round and see where the sort of spaces are. Again, I've got zero experience racing around this track, so it was more just follow and just see what it's like. As you can see, it is quite tight. If you're following people closely, the corners kind of come at you thick and fast, especially on this back section. So, sometimes you'll see I am missing turn-in points, I'm missing sort of apexes, really because, I haven't got any references for when a car is kind of in front of me. One thing you find when you learn to race closely on these games is when you're following a car super close, you lose the visual points in which you pick to turn in, to brake. So it's quite often on a track, particularly like this, when I don't know it very well, I will, you'll see me probably missing apexes and stuff. You'll also see what's happened just there. I've skipped a little bit in this race just for time, for me just racing on a little bit of empty track, and really just focusing on overtaking some of the cars. So I get quite aggressive in some of these moves because, again, it's the AI and I think you can get away with it. But generally, yeah, the track is quite good in a GT3. I certainly prefer this to racing in an F1 car. I'm just not a fan on the F1 games at all. But yeah, it was quite good, I have to say. Not too bad at all. I'll see if there are some online races. I'd like to have a go online and see what it's like, this narrow section with with some of the characters you meet online. So yeah, what I thought I'd also do is, since we're at the Hungaroring and it is the F1 this weekend, I thought, why not just talk about some of my thoughts on the current state of the F1 season, how I think this weekend's going to go, just generally a little bit of motorsport chat. So as I record this, I think we've had free practice 1 and 2 today in the Grand Prix. It was baking hot. The track and air temperatures were way up. I think for FP1 they said the track temperature was 50 degrees and the air temperature was 34, something like 32, 33, 34, something in that window. So very, very hot. So obviously that's going to have a big impact on tyres, who can look after their tyres, what the soft tyre is going to do. Being the Hungaroring, it is maximum downforce, it is the softest of the compounds. So I think that's going to play a part. You probably see it might even be a 2-stop race. But yeah, looking at free practice today, unfortunately, Red Bull looked very strong. Even Checo Perez looked pretty strong today. You may notice, if you're an F1 aficionado, that Checo and Max were actually running completely different bodywork today. Max is running the brand new aero setup with the side pods and the rear of the car, that will be run at all tracks with high downforce from now on. And Checo was running the sort of standard look that we've seen all year, with those high kind of shoulder points. And actually, Checo looked pretty tidy. It's the first time he's actually, did he top FP1 today, or maybe Norris? But yeah, they looked. The Red Bulls looked pretty spicy. McLaren, obviously on single lap pace, looks again in Norris's hands, looks really good. And a bit of a mixed bag for Mercedes. They've had 2 very strong races. Looked like they've got their act together, going in the right direction. But today we're kind of over half a second off the pace. I don't know whether that's a bit of sandbagging. Looking at some of the chat between Lewis and Bono, it seemed that a lot of the time he was losing was on the straights. And that could be engine mode, it could be a little bit of sandbagging, or it could just be that the other, I know Red Bull obviously have got the performance increases with the upgrades. But, Mercedes were bringing a performance upgrade as well. So whether it's not quite working as intended, or they're not yet showing their true hand. But, yeah, I was a little disappointed. And, listening to Lewis after the race, he seemed to indicate that, this Mercedes really isn't very good when the temperatures get hot. And I think that may be what happened today. So I don't know what the weather forecast is for tomorrow, for qualifying and for the race on Sunday, but you can sometimes get, with the Hungaroring, you can get mixed weather conditions. So you can get, it had been, if you'd seen footage earlier on this week, the entire sort of track was underwater, extreme flooding and whatnot. So yeah, it could be interesting. I think for Mercedes to perform well, I think they might need some cooler temperatures. I think they do struggle with the tyres, particularly Lewis struggles with these tyres. And in case anyone who hasn't picked up in the tone of my voice and who is watching this video that's not in my close work friendship group, you will know that, or you will probably pick up that I am a huge Lewis Hamilton fan. So yeah, watching him today, a little disappointed. And Mercedes in general, I thought they might be a bit closer to the front. Ferrari looked reasonably competitive, with Carlos Sainz having had a spell since Monaco where they've really gone the wrong way with their upgrades, and they've had to backtrack and almost go back to the drawing board, which wastes time, money, just development resources, which are limited now in the cost cap. So Ferrari looked like they've got themselves back on track. I think Carlos Sainz was, when I last saw it today, was third. Charles Leclerc did crash quite badly, but was looking pretty spicy up until that point. Yeah, and I think obviously McLaren, Lando and Max currently are the top 2. They really are generally ahead of the others. And it will be interesting to see, if they are on the front row coming tomorrow, going into turn 1 on Sunday, whether we've had a few comings together over the years at turn 1 at Hungaroring. a few years ago, the old Valtteri Bottas in 2021, where he just basically bowling balled 6 people out the way. It was like an online ACC race. It was wet, and he just took everyone out. So, turn 1 can get a bit of spicy. We saw that in that same race. Lewis trying to get past Fernando Alonso, and Alonso doing one of the great defensive jobs, and actually cost Lewis several places, I think. And we all know what happened in 2021. So it can be quite an influential race with results. It can throw up some surprises. So yeah, it will be fascinating. I do hope Mercedes, either set up or just were sandbagging a little bit, can bring themselves into a 4-way fight. So we've got Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull and Mercedes, because really that's what F1 needs. It doesn't benefit, even though I'm a huge Lewis Hamilton fan, I was still never a fan of Lewis storming away at the front when Mercedes were super dominant. I much prefer it when you've got 2-3 teams with both drivers in each team all capable of taking points off each other. It just makes the racing so much better. And with the gap between Max and Checo recently, and Lando generally having the edge on Oscar quite often in the races, it's good to see if we can get everyone up the front. So yeah, time will tell. How am I doing this race? Well, I think I'm at this point. I think I was 6th. I was settling into a little bit of a rhythm, as you probably picked up if you have been paying attention to the racing and not just switching off with me rambling on about F1. That generally I'm overtaking people in the same position on the track, which is sort of diving into that tight corner at the end. I think 95% AI was probably a bit slow on this track for me. Like I said, most tracks at my pace, it's 100% usually about right. But I think this is the point here where I'd been sort of diving in and taking most people, and not too many laps left here. I think those 3 actually in front, that is 1st, 2nd and 3rd. I think this white Ferrari is 4th, and I'm currently in 5th with a BMW in my rear view mirror. Just an interesting point actually, and it seems to be the same in a Formula 1 car. This last corner here, you have got to be so careful on the throttle. It's so easy to lose the back end there. I don't know what it is about the corner, and I noticed it today in Formula 1, the driver's really opening up the steering angle, and if you watch the onboard telemetry, you actually see they really squeeze the throttle on slowly. It's not one of those corners where you can slam the throttle down and just gain traction and off you go. It really, and it's the same in the GT car, you really have to open up the steering angle as you're going around. You've got to try and get the car rotated, and then you open up the steering. Once it's rotated, you open up the steering angle and you start to really get the power down. The other corner that it does cause a lot of problems is this one coming up just now. Is these either classed as turn 4 or 5. In a GT car, you have to slow down quite a bit because it's much heavier. Dead easy to get track limits warnings there, and that's something to watch out for with the old F1 cars. And that's where Charles Leclerc had his spin today. That curb on the outside, the green curb on the outside, that's raised up, and an F1 car bottoms out on that. And that's what happened to Charles Leclerc today. And basically the right wheel bottomed out on the right hand side of his car and spun him around and flung him into the barriers. So expect either track limit warnings or some accidents from people running too wide there. It is probably the fastest corner on the track. Modern Formula 1 cars, it's basically a light lift or a quick downshift and back on the throttle again. In a GT car, it's it's more like downshift 2 or 3 gears and let the weight of the car kind of pull you around the corner and try not to run too wide. It is blind coming up it as well. But yeah, there's the 1st and 2nd, and I think this is the last lap as we come around. So I don't quite make it last to 1st. But we, a few less mistakes, and we probably would have won that there. But there we are. That is the Hungaroring on ACC. I will try maybe and get some online racing on that in the future. It'll be interesting to see if it comes to the SimGrid seasons, what it's like with a sort of maybe more competitive racing. But there we are, and I'll see you guys in the next video.